The earliest settlers in Ireland were hunters and fishermen. These primitive people settled along the coast and river valleys in the north, eking out a living as best they could in what was often a hostile environment. A new wave of settlers brought new skills to the country. New Stone Age people knew about agriculture. Their abilities enabled them to make permanent settlements in Ireland and mark the beginning of civilized life. These farming people placed great importance on their funeral rites, as is evident from these dolmens. 2 or 3 standing stones supporting a huge capstone mark an ancient burial place. By far the most impressive sites are those found in the Boyne Valley in County Meath, an Irish Valley of the Kings. The construction of these tombs show astonishing levels of technical skill. For example, the roofing stones at Newgrange are concave to carry off rainwater. Newgrange, at over 4,000 years old, is the crowning glory of the Boyne Valley tombs. The central chamber, deep inside the mound itself, is constructed so as to be illuminated by the rising sun on the winter solstice and on that day alone. The people who built this amazing structure had to be skilled in solar observation in order to calculate the length of the sun's rays at the solstice. By around 2000 BC, the Bronze Age had arrived in Ireland. Many examples of bronze and gold work are as fine as any found in northern Europe of the same age. The Bronze Age was followed by the Iron Age and by new invaders from Europe. With their iron weapons, they swept all before them. They were the Celts. Different Celtic tribal groups settled in various parts of the country. The last being the Gael, who gradually conquered the whole island. By 400 AD, they had achieved total domination with their language and Gaelic culture. Artificial islands, or cronogues, were constructed in lakes from layers of stones, tree trunks, and earth. Approached by dugout canoe or simple bridge, these lake villages provided shelter and safety for the occupants. While much of Europe was under the influence of the Roman Empire, Ireland, not being part of that empire, was left to develop in its own way. Under a network of 150 different kingdoms, there were no fewer than 27 different classes of freemen, at the top of the pile being the regional kings, lawyers, druids, and poets. Celtic Ireland was split into 2 major tribal coalitions, the Connachtha in the north and the Onacht in the south. Of the northern tribes, the most influential were the Ine, ancestors of the modern O'Neills. Although they all shared common language and currency based on the value of cattle, there were constant battles over land, slaves, and the cattle themselves. This was a completely rural society. Gaelic Ireland built no towns. Irish warriors made forays and raiding parties to the British mainland, making settlements on the Welsh coast. And it was these contacts with a Britain by now under the influence of a Christian Roman Empire that paved the way for Christianity to enter Ireland. And the Apostle of Ireland was St. Patrick. The son of a civil servant in Roman Britain, Patrick was abducted by Irish raiders as a young man and sold into slavery near Sleamish Mountain in County Antrim. After 6 years he escaped and returned to Britain, becoming a priest, then a bishop. I saw in a dream a man called Victor, who seemed to be from Ireland and had many letters. He gave me one, and I read the opening words, "The Voice of the Irish." And as I read that beginning, I seemed at that moment to hear the voice of those people. They cried as with one voice, "We beg you, holy youth, come and walk once more among us." Upon hearing those words in a vision, St. Patrick returned to Ireland in 432 AD to spread the faith, particularly in those northeastern parts of the island not yet dominated by the kingdom of the Aeneil.
The Neolithic era was a time of great change for Ireland. Previously inhabited by hunter-gatherers, new settlers arrived from unknown lands. Evidence suggests that these people settled in areas such as clearings and forests and beside rivers. These locations were attractive to animals, giving the settlers access to food. One of the most significant advancements during these times was in the area of tools. Several implements such as axes, arrowheads, scrapers and knives have been identified at Irish Neolithic sites. Knives and scrapers paved the way for woodwork and leatherwork techniques that are used to this day. Stone axes were used in the clearing of large amounts of forestry, land on which farms and settlements would eventually be located. Crops such as wheat and barley were introduced to Ireland at this time. Wheat was more commonly used, as barley has only been found at 2 Irish Neolithic sites to date. To protect their crops, Neolithic man began to erect stone walls around these fields. The Céad of Fields in County Mayo are the most well-known example of these enclosure systems. Livestock, in the form of cattle, pigs and sheep, were brought from Britain by umiak, a large type of timber-framed boat. The distance between the two countries was as little as 24 kilometers at this time, making the crossing a reasonable proposition. All of these elements laid the foundations of the farming industry, which is still an important part of Irish culture. Handmade pottery was another major innovation of this era. Along with the establishment of small communities, this displayed the progression of Irish man towards a new lifestyle. Instead of living from day to day, as the hunter-gatherers did, man was now looking to the future, storing food for use in times when it may be more scarce. The first megalithic structures appeared during the Neolithic period. These technically impressive monuments, including dolmens, stone circles, court tombs and passage tombs, are still prominent in our landscapes. Constructed with large stones, many weighing several tons, these structures would appear to be the product of well-organized communities. Around 2000 BC, the Neolithic settlers left Ireland under mysterious circumstances. Research has suggested that a spell of extreme cold weather may have occurred at this time, destroying crops and forcing the Neolithic people to leave Ireland in search of a warmer climate. Despite their disappearance thousands of years ago, their legacy clearly has an impact on us today.